Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Chiro Secure live event, the leader in avoiding claims backed up by the best malpractice defense. Chiro Secure's live events educate and support you, the practitioner, by making sure you have the information you need to protect you, your practice, and your future. At the end of the show, so make sure you stay to the end, we're going to talk about how you could save up to 10 to 40% over your current premiums if you're not already a Chiro Secure client. Today, one other thing, we're going to also allow you to like us on Facebook. You'll see that right under the page you're watching. There'll be a like us button. You can click on that. We'd appreciate it. Today we have a special guest, Gene Eaton, and the topic of the day is email with patients, problem or opportunity. Gene is a certified health information management professional specializing in health information management, policies and procedures, records management, clinic management, practice efficiency, and workflow consultation, as well as privacy and security in the healthcare sector. Having worked with health records and primary care organizations for over 20 years, she's an experienced leader in health information management. Her consulting service includes physicians, pharmacies, chiropractors, and other primary healthcare providers and primary care networks. She's the author of Privacy Nuggets and the upcoming books Preventing Privacy Breach Pain, Privacy Breach Management Resource Package, and Practice Management, easy to follow, steps to start a new clinic and improve your established clinic. Gene is constructively obsessive about privacy and confidentiality and security when it comes to the handling of personal information, particularly in a primary health care setting. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the show over to Dr. Stu. I'm going to let him tell you some exciting news really that has really come out in the last week or so, and then we'll get Gene on the show. Dr. Stu?
Thanks, Alan, and welcome everybody to the Chiro Secure live show today. I want to start off the show for a number of reasons by talking about something that we've been working on for the last year or so, and that is what has been given to us through the medical community relating chiropractic care and strokes. And it's something that we don't take lightly, haven't taken lightly, and realize that we need to come up with a better game for our doctors in dealing with this type of scenario, because those of you that have heard me speak in the past know that I talk about when a patient just happens to show up at the ER with stroke-like symptoms, and they wind up being asked as one of the first questions, have you seen a chiropractor? The answer is yes. It's automatically an entrance diagnosis of chiropractic stroke. That doesn't sit well for me. We need to be able to defend our doctors very, very well, and we need to be a lot more proactive in the public arena, but also in our own professional arena in terms of this. So one of the things that we've talked about in terms of our informed consent packet that many of you are already utilizing, and if you're not, you should be. We have stroke in our informed consent, but we have it with a massive caveat talking about how it is not a proven relationship. There is simply an association. And therefore, it makes it a lot more palatable for our doctors, and it still acts as a protection for the doctors. But one of the things that we utilize as one of the studies to help educate not just our doctors, but to educate your patients, is the Cassidy study from a few years back that showed that there's actually no difference in terms of patients that go to a medical doctor and then wind up with a stroke versus those that go to a chiropractor and happen to wind up with a stroke, which I consider a casual, coincidental relationship. Well, Optum Health, many of you know them, and some of you think more highly of them than others. they have done their own study on strokes relating to patients that have been to a chiropractor. And they just released the study last week. I was very concerned about the study because when you have an insurance company, and they are representing United Healthcare's patients in this, when you have an insurance company that hasn't been necessarily our best friend in terms of from the reimbursement world, what are they going to be putting out in terms of how safe it is to go to a chiropractor? Well, this study was supposed to be released early last fall. Then it was delayed, then it was delayed again, so more concern. But last Friday, out of the blue, it shows up. And we had our hands on it, and we, in fact, just posted on Facebook today, as well as on our website, so you can always go to the ChiroSecure website and get a full copy of the study. So in the meantime, the study came out terrific. It is one of the best things that I have seen on the chiropractor's behalf, because they also conclude that there is no evidence that there is any significant association of going to a chiropractor and winding up with a stroke. So what they're saying, you know, just like the Cassidy study, neither one of the studies can definitively state that a cervical adjustment, in their words, a cervical manipulation, cannot cause an arterial dissection, but both of the studies do support the perspective that it is highly unlikely. And one of the things that we've spoken about is that I definitely believe a chiropractor cannot cause a stroke in a healthy, or a tear in a healthy artery. There are many, many factors. We've been working, as most of you know, on trying to get you know, a full approach to this stroke dilemma for the chiropractors. Well, this is another step in that direction. So I want you all to please go to our website, chirosecure.com, and click to download the study. While you're there, make sure you get a copy of our informed consent packet and start implementing it. Because again, it's all for your protection, not talking about whether or not chiropractors need it. It's still there for your protection. So I wanted to at least start out with that. A lot of the doctors that I talk to when it relates to the stroke issue, because most doctors think that it never happens. There's no claims of patients alleging that a stroke is caused by the chiropractor, or I only use activator, no force, low force. I didn't adjust the patient for 2 weeks before they went to the ER. All of these things are true, and we're here to support you with all of that. But with that being said, please take into consideration that these claims do show up, and whoever your insurance carrier is going to be spending in the range of $200,000 to $300,000 just to defend you, let alone if it winds up having to pay out. So we've taken all of these steps and are continuing to take steps to change the dynamic in terms of this whole issue. And part of it has to be future efforts, getting more and more information up on the internet to offset when your patient goes and Googles chiropractic and stroke and sees the enormity of all of the negative press that's up there. We are set to make a difference. And that's why I know most of you on this live event, and believe me, that's why sometimes live is great, but you do find technical difficulties. But we're trying to make opportunities out of it in sharing with you some of the most current information out there. But we're taking it seriously for all of our doctors, and even if you're not with us, you'll still benefit from our efforts, although we certainly prefer to have you, on the team. So I just wanted to at least elaborate on that a little bit more. Gene, I want to set that up because the reason that you're on, and I have other people that I refer to for HIPAA compliance, like Edie Hoffman, and she's a good friend and someone that's been very helpful to the ChiroSecure doctors. But I take these phone calls. The doctor will call me up and they received an email from a patient, and then they want to respond or want my advice on a response. And as it turns out, they've already emailed back and forth 3, 4, 5 times. At that point, sometimes it's a little late to fix what they've already put out in email. So I know that you're going to address what you could, what you should, and what you should not be putting out, whether it be an email or any other public forum, because email can become public. So I just wanted to preface that because I do get these calls all day long.
Thank you, Dr. Stu and Dr. L. I'm delighted to be here to talk with you about email with patients, problem or opportunity. Using email with patients in our practices is really a bit of a tricky business. So I want to walk you through a couple of key steps that you need to consider before you decide whether or not using email with patients is the right solution for your practice. I really liked Chris Hadfield's statement about anticipating problems and figuring out how to solve them is actually the opposite of worrying. It's productive. And it certainly applies about trying new technology and new approaches in your practice. You want to work through all of the steps that you are anticipating to make sure that you've identified all of the risks and mitigation strategies to be able to minimize those risks. We want to make sure that we get a good outcome for the patients, for the practice, and for your employees. If you don't take the time to go through the steps that you need for email with patients, you are going to miss key points and you're going to have a privacy breach, you might have a HIPAA violation, you're certainly going to have confusion with your employees, and you're going to end up with problems about how you manage your records in your practice with your patients. So please stay tuned, follow this next 7 steps, and see if using email with patients is the right solution for you. Now, if we don't follow these steps, we're going to find that even a little bit of information that goes to the wrong place at the wrong time can result in a privacy breach. And whenever you use technology and you share information in a big way, you can have a big privacy breach really quickly. Now, in this example, Mary received an email message to say that the course that she had signed up for is ready for registration. So if the course that showed up in her email in basket has a subject line, ready to leave your job, people at work might think that Mary is getting ready to move on, that she's not going to be available to continue to contribute to that workplace. She might be passed up with promotions, and certainly a lot of questions might be asked. But Mary might actually be signed up for a program about improving employee retention. Just a little bit of information in the wrong place at the wrong time can be counterintuitive. It might cause problems for Mary. It might cause problems for Mary if she gets an email from her chiropractor or healthcare provider that says your doctor's appointment is 3 o'clock tomorrow. Now, she might have a health issue, but if that email with that health issue is in the email basket of her workplace employer, that could be a problem for Mary. It might be that this is a continuing healthy preventative thing for Mary to do, and it's a good thing, but someone else has looked over her shoulder and sees that she's going to a doctor's appointment tomorrow. So it doesn't take a lot of information before it can be used inappropriately, taken out of context, and cause grief for Mary and for you. Now, it doesn't take a lot for things to happen to have a privacy breach. And unfortunately, there are certainly lots and lots of examples about privacy breaches. And it includes employee information, it includes your healthcare information, your patient information, and your business contacts. When we have employees or your patient's email addresses in your system, and you only intend to keep that email information for confirming appointments, for example, for a very specific purpose. But because that email message is actually there, that email address is available, somebody might pick it up and use it for another purpose. So we need to be careful that we're using it for the intended purpose and that we're limiting the possibility of it being misused for an unintended purpose. So let's take a look and see how you're communicating now with patients. So I've got a short little poll here. So Dr. Al, if we can organize to have the poll show up on the website, and just find out how the practitioners here are actually communicating with your patients right now. How many of you are using your website or social media? You currently using email to communicate with your patients, maybe text messaging, or maybe all of the above. Just enter in the letters at the side of the slide here, A, B, C, D, or E, and we'll come back later and find out the results of the poll. So using email with patients is one way to communicate with your patients, and there are lots of different ways and lots of different technologies, but here's a really important part. Regardless of what technology that you are using, if you haven't already built a trusting relationship with the patient, the technology isn't going to work, and in fact might actually cause more problems. So be very clear about what is the purpose that you want to use email with patients. And strongly, don't start using email before you actually see the patient. You're going to build a relationship with the patient before you offer email as a solution to be able to communicate with those patients. So even if you're going to use email for something really simple about confirming patients' appointments, you need to be very clear about how you're going to structure that process. So let's use this as our example. It's very straightforward. We're not going to add a lot of information. It's going to be very simple. We want to confirm your appointment. If you've got any questions, give us a call. So we haven't said which doctor, we haven't said about what appointment, or bring any additional information to the appointment, just that you have an appointment with the physician's office the next day. So here are the 7 steps that I suggest that you need to consider to create an email program with patients for your practice. And you can download the complete document or the white paper about patient-provider email communications from our website, and I believe Dr. Al has the link for you. You don't have to sign up. It's a free download, and you can walk through the steps with your practice and see if this is a good solution for your practice. So the very first thing that you need to do is to plan, and I mean to put this in paper and in writing, not just saying, yeah, we're going to use email and we're going to start on this day. You need to be very clear about establishing clear policies and procedures about when you will and what you won't use email with your patients in your practice. The provider is responsible for disclosing the information and to ensure that you've got reasonable safeguards in place. So you need to make sure that you have this process really well documented. Even a plain email confirming an appointment at a clinic can be sensitive if it's seen by the wrong person at the wrong time. Education. Education is for both the patient, for the staff at the practitioner's office, and for the chiropractor or the healthcare provider. Establish clear, consistent, easy to read and understand education to the patient about the risks of using email and sending and receiving health information. Even then, as the healthcare provider, you are the person of authority on this topic, and you still have responsibility about how patients receive your email. So not only are you responsible for what you include in the message, you're responsible for sending the message, you also have responsibility about how the patient receives the message. So you can't say, well, it's up to the patient to decide how they're going to receive the email. It's not. You actually have to provide additional education to the patient and make sure that they clearly understand how they are going to receive the email and provide a knowledgeable consent that, yes, I want to receive the email, and yes, I will use it at my own personal private email address that I don't share with anybody else. It's not being forwarded to a work device, and that I am going to be responsible for receiving that email. So you need to provide some education, and a flyer or brochure or closed circuit TV about this new service that you're providing in your practice are some good ways to be able to provide that education. You need to make sure that step number 3, you have authorization from the patient to use email for this very particular purpose. And again, you can't do that unless you actually see the patient first. So don't use email as your first form of contact with the patient before they come into your practice. You want to be able to provide the education and get the authorization, and the only way that you can do that is when they come to your practice first. Be very clear about the purpose that you want to use the email for. So we will talk in a moment about a definition of an e-visit, but be very clear about the purpose of how you're going to use the email. Is it only going to be for appointment confirmations? Is it going to be for communication back and forth to a particular subset of your patient population? Is it for a fitness class or a wellness class, as opposed to somebody who has an acute trauma that you're still navigating the diagnostic and the treatment plan for? One of the things I suggest is that you put things on a pilot program. So you can start with a small group of people for a very particular purpose and work through all the bugs in the process first. It's much easier to start a program with maybe 20 people than it is with 200 people or certainly 2,000 people. Identify a target population that's non-emergency, that they don't have acute problems, that timing isn't of essence to them, and you've already established that trusting relationship. Be very clear about what the criteria is for your patient population and write it down. Be very clear about who your avatar or who your patient is, about who you're going to offer this program to. Offer it as an opportunity to provide a different way of communicating with you. If you offer it as an opportunity, then it is something that you can take back if that doesn't work out for either the patient or for your practice. That way you're not providing email communications to patients that are not the good candidates for it. Maybe they've got problems with spoken English, so written English it might be even more of a challenge. Maybe they're not technology savvy. You don't want to offer a solution to all of your patients if you know that not all of your patients are going to be able to cope with that. You may end up spending more time providing maintenance to a group of patients that weren't a good option in the first place. So be very clear about what is your patient population. Offer it as a pilot. Be very clear that you've got written documentation about the criteria and the education. You need to get the information in place so that all of your staff can follow that and use it consistently. You also want to be very clear about who is the owner of the process in your practice. Is it going to be the clinic manager, one of your key staff, or perhaps the chiropractor themselves? If people have questions about this, who's going to monitor the process? How are you going to audit that it worked, that you're getting the outcomes that you want, and it's worth the time and energy and technology that you've put into place to make this a solution for you? Be clear about who that person is going to be so that you can be on top of this, because this is something that can get away from you very quickly. We talked about identifying that target audience, and be very clear who that target audience is and what is your outcome. I really strongly suggest that you take a look at using this on a pilot project. There's a little bit of flexibility of trying something. If something goes wrong, you can say, well, it was a pilot project. We tried it in a really confined area, and now we're going back and making sure that we found some problems and we're making it better. Be very clear about your criteria, because you want to be able to measure to see if this is a good way for you to do that practice. Now, one of the questions is about managing the records that come out of that. If your email conversation replaces a whites of the eye face-to-face, in-person visit, then it might fit the definition of what we call an e-visit. If your email communication fits that definition of an e-visit, you're going to have to consider how you're going to get that email communication in the patient's record. You might be able to use some technology to print it to PDF or attach it to your EMR record if you're using electronic patient records in your practice. Or you could paraphrase that conversation just like you would paraphrase a telephone conversation with the patient and record that in the patient's record. Make sure that you have this as part of your policies and procedures about how you're going to deal with this. As long as you're dealing with it consistently, that you've got it well documented and everybody's doing it the same way, it's probably going to be okay. You've got good standards for your records management practice already. Email is a different modality. As long as you've got the criteria around it, you're probably going to be okay for your records management. But put it in writing first and make sure that you train to that. So using that email communication, you also are going to identify what is not going to be part of that patient record. You might not include out-of-office confirmations, or if the patient replies back to your appointment listing to say, thanks very much, I'll be there. Is that clinically significant? Do you need to keep it in the patient's record? How often do you purge or delete the emails? Who is going to have access to the emails in your practice? How quickly are you going to keep on top of them? Those are all types of things that you need to consider for your records management and for your complete and comprehensive patient records.
And Jean, before you go on, I just want to interject. One of the things that I've shared with doctors when they ask about keeping correspondence, I always side on safety. No matter what the correspondence is, it should go into their permanent file because it is still part of the communication between the doctor and the patient. Is there any issue to that in your opinion?
No issue, but there might be some things that you want to manage as far as SOPs or standard operating practices.
Right.
If you receive an email to say that they're out of office, is that clinically significant to keep on the chart? Or can you paraphrase that information to say that we didn't reach the patient, we need to confirm the follow-up appointment in some other way?
Right, and I guess what I'm trying to clarify for the audience is I think it's still important to keep all correspondence. It doesn't mean it's all part of their health records, but it is part of their overall record.
That might be, and you need to identify that in your policies and procedures about what does your health record include and what does your other administrative records include and what it doesn't include. So as long as you're clear about what box it's going to go in, you can put it in either box, just as long as you're doing it consistently and you've recorded what your expectations are.
Do we need to go through all these steps about something so simple as email? No, it's part of your job. We want to make sure that we're managing the records consistently, correctly, managing it for patient care. And you're going to get some pushback from patients, and that's okay because this is an opportunity to let them know that this is important to you. You think that privacy is important. This is an additional opportunity to be able to provide some communication, but you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing at the right time. Patients will accept that and they'll appreciate it, and they'll have a better understanding about how important it is that they stay involved in this and be part of the solution and not create additional problems. If you want to use email to continue to provide improving care and treatment, then we need to make sure that we care about this. We want to make sure that we take the time and energy to make this work, and it does take time and energy. If you decide that today that you want to implement an email solution, you have it up and ready for tomorrow, you probably missed a whole bunch of steps. It does take time and effort to be able to do that.
One thing that I always encourage the doctors to do is to be careful of what they respond to in writing. So if a patient has a complaint to you, I always recommend that you indicate in an email that you're going to call them to discuss the concern rather than to go back and forth in a written dialogue through email with the patient's issue, because it's not everything can be understood, certainly emotion and intent, through writing as opposed to being verbal on a telephone or in person. So that is one thing that we've dealt with.
Dr. Al, I'm available for any questions, and people can contact me here.
Jean, I wanted to just go over, something that I was just talking about, because I do find that to be a challenge for the doctors. They feel like, no matter what the what the vehicle is that the patient may have emailed them, and or the patient's family, by the way, has emailed the doctor, whether it be through the website, through responding to a welcome correspondence, or maybe they just give out their email address. Either which way, I think that it's important that the doctors know that it's always better to correspond with the patient verbally and or in person, rather than to air dirty laundry, let's say, or their complaints or challenges or issues back and forth through email. So getting an email from somebody doesn't mean that you have to spend time to dictate a whole new letter back to them by email, as opposed to, hey, it's very simple, I'm going to be calling you at 7 tonight when I'm done with my office hours to discuss this, rather than having to put sensitive information into an email itself. That was just a point I wanted to make, Alan. So, I think that that was good from Jean. And what I liked especially was at the very beginning, Jean was also talking about, a lot of this can make a difference based on how trustworthy, which is something that we've talked about in past events that we've had, how trustworthy the patient actually thinks you are, because you've already established, or maybe not, established a rapport with that patient, allowing for more open dialogue in different settings as opposed to just in a clinical environment. I would also encourage the doctors to take heed that just because technology exists does not mean that you now have social hour with your patients because it's through email. The same decorum, the same way you would treat a patient in the office should be utilized in any type of forum. So I just wanted to end with that, Alan, and thank Jean for helping us out today and being part of our program.
Let me just go over a little bit of business here, and then we'll wrap up the show. If you're watching this on the page you're seeing right now, just a couple of things. If you haven't added your name and email to the form on the right to get a copy of the notes and the transcript and the improved audio version, please do so now. Right above that, you'll see the ability to sign up for our concierge service. That means you will automatically always get the transcripts, notes, and replay of any guest that we have, whether you're on the live event or not. Right under the video, you'll see a place to click our like button. And if you're not already a client of ChiroSecure, make sure that you click where it says your malpractice quick quote. We have 7 different types of policies, so we can give you the policy that's right for you at the price that's right for you. And doctors usually save anywhere from 10 to 40%. So if you click on the quick quote, fill that out, and then we'll get within 24 business hours. On behalf of myself, Dr. Alan Weinstein, Dr. Stu Hoffman and ChiroSecure, and Jean Eaton from a hotel somewhere that was messing with our internet connection, we want to thank you for coming to the ChiroSecure live event, and we'll see you again next month. Bye, everybody.